Thank you, Mr. Speaker. November marks Islamophobia Awareness Month. Last year, the United Nations Human Rights Council adopted a resolution condemning the desecration of religious texts, including the Quran, despite opposition from the previous government. Acts of such mindless desecration only serve to fuel division and hatred within our society. Will the Prime Minister commit to introducing measures to prohibit the desecration of all religious texts and the prophets of the Abrahamic religions?
Can I agree with him that desecration is awful and I think should be condemned across the House? We are, as I said before, Mr. Speaker, committed to tackling all forms of hatred and division, including, of course, Islamophobia in all of its forms. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there we have it. They're trying it again. They tried it in 2006 and they failed dismally. And they're trying it again now. And what are they trying? They're trying to institute what amounts to Islamic blasphemy laws in the United Kingdom. The pressure for this is not coming from the Methodists or the Buddhists or the Hindus or the Sikhs or the Catholics or the Presbyterians. No, it's coming from a certain sect. It's coming from basically radical Islamists. That's the seed of this, because what they want to do is shut down any criticism or critique of the text. Now, listen to what he said in that speech. He was talking about the texts. He's obviously talking about the alleged prophet of Islam, and this is very dangerous. All you've got to do is look at what happened in Batley. Look at what happened to the French school teacher that was actually beheaded by Islamists. So there's a massive attack on freedom of speech. And if this is ever given any quarter and allowed to get into legislation, allowed to be on the statute book, that you cannot critique religious texts or mock religious texts. I don't like people blaspheming and mocking Christ as a Christian. I find it offensive. But am I going to be dragging people into court for doing it? No, because I believe in freedom of speech, and I believe the way good ideas are promoted is by being discussed, by rationally and logically looking at the evidence for whatever proposition you're putting forward, and it's either disproved and vilified, or it has some validity. That's what you do in a free society. You discuss things, you talk things through, but this silencing of people and this cancelling of people, and that's what will happen. If this goes through, you will see the prisons literally full to the brim of people that have been accused of blaspheming, because that's what it is. It's a blasphemy law by the back door, and they keep pushing this. In 2006, the Racial and Religious Hatred Act, which made it an offence to, I think, hate people on the grounds of their religion or whatever they say. But they tried to do this in 2006. They tried to make it so that if you were insulting the religious figures from those religions and the religious texts, that you could be prosecuted. And again, an amendment was put down and the motion was defeated, and it was defeated by one vote. And I think I've told the story about that many times before. We got a letter writing campaign going to our local MP who was going to abstain, or she wasn't going to vote, she was going to abstain. And she saw the danger in the Racial and Religious Hatred Act when it was explained in very simple terms. Because what you got to remember is MPs can't be across everything all the time either. So you need to sometimes help them and explain exactly what's going on. She voted against it. Blair had a massive majority. It should have passed. But by some miracle, all of his MPs were up in Scotland because the SNP were on a bit of a rampage, and he whipped his MPs to go up there and to basically do what they needed to do to stop the SNP's rampage. He had a very, very slim majority by that time in the House. He didn't even walk into the lobby himself. And Lady Sylvia Herman, all credit to her, she voted against it, and it was defeated by one vote. And sometimes that's how fine these margins are. Now, Keir Starmer, when he responded, he didn't say he wasn't going to pass any legislation. And we know from his discussions with Sadiq Khan that this is a hot button issue for him. He thinks Islamophobia is the biggest evil in the country, when obviously, as we know, the opposite's the truth. Islamism and Islamic supremacy is one of the biggest dangers to our country, without a shadow of a doubt. So what do we do about this? Well, we do exactly what we did last time. We lobby, we write letters, we protest, we pray, we talk to people about it, we let them know how damaging these sort of laws are. And in fact, I mean, if I ever got power, which I never will, but if I ever was in politics, one of the first things I think I'd do is repeal all the hate speech laws and let everything be said in this this country, and then let people either stand or fall by what they've said. So it's very dangerous legislation if it gets if they do decide to do it, and they do decide to try and push this through in the next parliament. And we need to be ready now. I mean, the Downing Street said no, there's no chance of having blasphemy laws. Well, you don't have to call it a blasphemy law, do you? It can come under a hate crime, that by insulting the text of the religion that you're criticizing, what is conflated is that is then insulting the people that follow that religion, and by default a hate crime's been committed. That's how they'll sneak it in, and that's what we've got to be very, very aware of. I warned about this in 2006, and we you know, a lot of people were involved in a lot of campaigning to stop that happening in 2006. I warned about the internet harms legislation, and some people who are very closely connected to parliamentarians looked at me like I had two heads when I was warning about it. Well, you know, they kind of laughed at me. They're not laughing now, to quote Bob Monkhouse and Nigel Farage. And the reality with this, we won't be laughing if this gets onto the statute book. So we need to do something about it. We need to take very seriously what Muslim MPs say in the House when they're talking about Islam and when they're talking about Islamophobia, and how they want the text and the prophet of Islam protected. It's always wrong to hate someone because of their religion or because of what they believe or because of the color of skin. I agree with that 100%. It is completely wrong to do that. However, it is also equally wrong to stop people discussing and debating the basis of any religion or none. It's very, very wrong, and we've got to fight against that with all our might. And that's what we're up against. We're up against, once again, we're going to have to fight the same battles over and over again. And this is going to keep coming at us. This is going to keep coming. And there needs to be some sort of a settlement where people have got to understand that if they're following a religion, that does not give that religion a privileged place where that's protected by law. A religion should be protected by its doctrines, not by the legislation of the land. If it has to be protected by the legislation of the land, then it is a weak, feeble, and fearful religion. And I believe that's what's going on here. So anyway, just want to bring you up to date on what my thoughts are on that. I think we will see an update to the religious, racial and religious hatred act, or some other legislation put on the statute book that will make it very difficult to critique Islam. And of course, even making videos like this on YouTube does not make you very popular with YouTube either. But it's got to be done. It's got to be said. And I haven't, as far as I know, I haven't broke any of their community guidelines in making this video. I'll find out if the video gets deleted. But yeah, so we've just got to be aware that this will probably come down the road. See you all soon.